I've always believed that some places aren't meant to be visited after dark. Not because they're dangerous in any practical sense, but because they remember things. Painful things. Violent things. And sometimes, if you're not careful, those memories try to remember you back. My name is Chris. I'm 29, and I work remotely as a software engineer. I live a relatively calm life in a small cabin near the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina, surrounded by forest, birdsong, and isolation. I like it that way. No traffic, no people knocking on your door, no loud neighbors. Just silence. On New Year's Eve, my friend Kevin invited me to a small get-together at his family's cabin about an hour and a half away, deeper into the mountains. I debated skipping it, as I wasn't much in the mood for partying, but Kevin was insistent. It had been years since our college crew had met. So I packed a few things, hopped in my SUV, and left around 7 p.m. The drive was pleasant at first. The sun had dipped below the ridges, leaving behind a cool bluish hue across the snowy forest. My GPS led me down a winding mountain road, flanked by towering pine trees. I turned onto a lesser-known forest road I hadn't used before, narrow, cracked, and with barely any lighting. That's when I saw her. She was standing on the right side of the road, just where the trees thickened and the asphalt narrowed. A woman, maybe in her 30s, barefoot, wearing a flowing white dress that barely moved in the breeze. Her face was shadowed by her long black hair, and she stood so still, it almost looked like she was part of the forest. My foot instinctively eased off the gas. I stared at her as I passed, heart beginning to race for reasons I couldn't explain. When I glanced in the rearview mirror, I swear, she had turned her head, just enough to watch me drive away. I didn't stop. I just kept driving, convincing myself she must be some drunk partygoer or a woman from a nearby cabin. Maybe she was lost. But that sinking feeling in my gut didn't fade. When I arrived at Kevin's cabin, laughter and music greeted me, and I tried to shake the unease off. Kevin hugged me, passed me a drink, which I politely declined, and introduced me to a few people I didn't know. The hours passed quickly. Midnight came and went with sparklers, champagne toasts, and shouting into the crisp mountain night. By 1:30 a.m., I decided to head home. I didn't want to drive too late with the road starting to ice up. Kevin offered me a room, but I felt okay. Besides, I had my snow tires and had driven these roads plenty of times. I got back into my car, turned the heat up, and started down the forest road again. That's when things went wrong. About 20 minutes into the drive, the car began to rattle. Then the steering wheel pulled sharply to the left. I cursed and pulled over. When I got out to check, I froze. All 4 tires. Not just flat, shredded. Long, deep gashes running down the rubber, as if something had clawed through them. No nails, no glass. Just violent, animal-like tears. I was in the middle of nowhere, no signal, and the temperature was dropping fast. I turned off the engine to save fuel and sat inside, trying to figure out my next move. That's when I noticed the silence. Not just the regular forest quiet, but a complete silence. No wind, no crickets, no rustling branches. It was as if the forest had gone completely still, waiting. Then, I heard it. A single footstep. Then another. Crunching snow. Slow, deliberate. I turned off the interior lights and held my breath. "I see you." The voice was female. Soft. Whispering. "Close." My skin crawled. I turned on my phone's flashlight and pointed it outside through the passenger side window. My hand was shaking. At first, I didn't see anything. Just snow and trees. Then, behind the first row of pines, about 20 feet away, she stepped out. It was the woman. The same white dress. The same black hair. But her face, oh God, her face, was wrong. Parts of it looked melted, like wax. Her mouth stretched too wide, revealing black gums and broken teeth. One of her eyes was too high on her face, like it had slid upward. She smiled. Do you see me? I threw the door open and bolted. I didn't know where I was running to, only away. Branches scratched my arms and face. Snow soaked through my jeans and into my boots. I didn't stop until I saw a cabin light through the trees. It was Kevin's. I ran to the door and pounded on it. Kevin opened it groggily, shocked to see me breathless and pale. "What the hell happened to you?" I couldn't speak at first. Just stumbled inside and collapsed onto the couch. Kevin's parents, who were staying there too, came out, worried. I told them everything. The woman. The tires. The voice. They let me sleep in the guest room. I didn't sleep much. At exactly 3:14 a.m., I woke up to tapping on the window. Tap. 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 Then a whisper, just outside the glass. "I see you." I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. The tapping stopped after a minute, and the rest of the night passed in a cold, terrified silence. In the morning, Kevin and his dad went with me back to where I'd left the car. The tires were still slashed. But next to the driver's side door, half buried in the snow, was a rusty knife, its blade jagged and curved like a claw. Kevin called the police. They searched the area and questioned a few nearby cabins. Strangely, 2 other guests from the party said they had seen someone in a white dress wandering through the trees during the fireworks, but they assumed it was someone playing a prank. The police later found an abandoned cabin a few miles deeper into the woods. It had been empty for years. Inside, they found bones, animal bones, mostly, some of them gutted and hung like trophies. But no woman. No footprints. No answers. I had the SUV towed and sold it a month later. Even now, back home, I sometimes wake up at 3:14 a.m., heart racing, afraid to look at the window. I keep it locked. Blinds drawn. But some nights, when the wind is just right, I swear I still hear her whisper, somewhere in the trees. "I see you." And I wonder if, one night, I'll answer without meaning to. "Yes. I see you too." I had just returned from a work trip in San Diego. It was close to midnight, and the airport was practically deserted. My flight had been delayed for hours, and my phone was at 20% battery. I dragged my suitcase outside and scanned for taxis. Rideshare apps weren't working, signal was spotty, and honestly, I was too tired to mess with them. Then I saw it, a yellow minivan taxi, older model, idling by the curb. The driver, a man in his late 40s or early 50s, leaned across the front seat and waved. "Need a ride, miss?" Something about him made me hesitate, but exhaustion won. I nodded, climbed into the back seat, and gave him my address. He smiled into the rearview mirror. "Home, huh? Long day?" I nodded, keeping my eyes on the passing lights outside the window. At first, it was quiet. The hum of the road, the distant thud of my luggage shifting in the trunk. Then the question started. "You from around here?" he asked casually, eyes flicking between the mirror and the road. "Yeah," I answered, not offering more. "Pretty late for a young lady to be out alone," he said. "No boyfriend picking you up?" My stomach twisted. "I have someone waiting at home," I lied. The man chuckled. "Lucky guy. What's his name?" I didn't respond. I pulled out my phone and quietly shared my location with my cousin, Katie, adding a message, "Weird cab driver." Just in case. We were nearing my neighborhood now, but instead of turning right onto Maple Drive, he kept going, straight past the street despite me saying, that was my turn. He waved it off with a laugh. "Shortcut. Quicker this way." "No. I want to go the way I said." Another glance in the mirror. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Relax." My heart pounded. I considered calling someone, but I didn't want to tip him off. Then I spotted it, a police cruiser parked at a gas station up ahead. "I need to grab something," I said suddenly. "Can you stop at the station?" He hesitated. "Slowed down. Just take me home," he muttered. I unbuckled my seatbelt and, as we approached a red light near the gas station, yanked open the door and jumped out. My bag stayed behind. The cop must have seen me sprinting, because by the time I reached the cruiser, the officer was already stepping out. I turned and pointed. That man. The taxi. But the yellow van had vanished. It hadn't even waited for the light to turn green. The officer gave me a ride home. I filed a report, gave a vague description of the van, but there were no cameras on that street. No license plate. Nothing. I tried to convince myself it was over. Just a close call. That night, around 2 a.m., someone knocked on my door. I froze. At first, it was soft. Then it grew louder. More urgent. I peeked through the peephole, no one. I turned off the lights, heart pounding, and sat in the hallway with my phone in hand. The next day, my neighbor, Mrs. Holloway, a sweet elderly woman who'd lived there for decades, waved me down as I left for work. Your father came by last night, she said cheerfully. I stopped cold. My father? Tall man. Gray jacket. Said he was checking in on you. I figured he was worried, knocking so late. My dad lives 2 states away. He's in a wheelchair. Mrs. Holloway's smile faded. That night, I packed a small bag. I decided to stay at my parents' house for a few days. I felt eyes on me constantly. The sound of every creak in the apartment made me jump. As I zipped up my suitcase, I heard something, a footstep. Inside. I stood still. Another step. Closer. From the living room. My phone was charging in the kitchen. My only chance was to get to it. I tiptoed to the doorway and peered into the living room. No one. But I heard breathing. Low, steady. Then a voice from behind the couch, I'm not here to hurt you. I ran. Out the door, down the hall, banged on my neighbor's door. She let me in without question as I sobbed and called the police. By the time they arrived, the apartment was empty. The back door, one I never used, was open. The intruder had escaped. I moved the next week. Changed my number. Installed cameras. Got pepper spray, a taser, even took self-defense classes. I never got into a taxi alone again. But the story didn't end there. A few months later, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. It was silent at first. Then, you looked scared that night. Click. I changed my number again. I thought maybe I'd finally shaken him. Until a week ago. I was walking to my car after work. It was late again. The parking lot was mostly empty. As I approached my car, I saw it. A yellow minivan. Parked 1 row behind mine. No one inside. No cameras in that part of the lot. No other witnesses. Just me. And the van. I left immediately. Drove to a friend's house. Didn't go home for days. And now, every night, I check outside my window. Sometimes, I think I see something just beyond the street lamp. Just out of focus. A silhouette. Watching. Waiting. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he wants. But I know this. He never stopped following me. And he never will.